Good morning, everyone, and good evening for those who are watching in different time zones, or maybe good afternoon for you. And at least for the person that I will interview, it's good evening for her. My name is Marilyn. I am the founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CTS, and we are passionate about helping leaders and organizations who are continuous learners and action takers to transform and thrive in all aspects by co creating customized programs with our world class resources. We have served over 3,000 leaders from over 30 countries in different industries, and that includes Petronas, Sony Mobile, Life UK, Ayala Group, Chevron, Tencent, Jollibee Foods Corporation, and Shell, to name a few. And recently, we've been organizing several interventions like webinars, this interview in particular, to help leaders who don't know how to stay relevant and adapt to the next normal, those who find it stressful. To lead and ensure performance of a remote team, and for those who are actually afraid that you can't keep your team or business um, staying relevant and afloat, right? So to be able to stay relevant and continue to lead effectively in any situation, do join us in this kind of intervention. And today, it's my great pleasure to introduce our leader, Barbara Jean Dagesse. She has 37 years of experience as a pharmacist in hospital, retail, nursing home, and COVID-19 vaccination clinics. She is in alternative medicine in the last 3 years, and has been aggressively developing Wellness Live 90 with energy techniques and supplementation. And presently, she's collaborating with clients to help them in the overall wellness. And her vision is to help people understand the levels of wellness that is possible to be happy, healthy, and wealthy in their lives. So, without so much further ado, I'd like to bring in Barbara.
Hello, hello.
I really appreciate you for taking time. I know it's nighttime on your side, and there was like some slight delay with my oopsies, but I really appreciate your patience with that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here and getting this opportunity to talk about leadership and transformation. It's huge on my heart for people to know about it. So I just am embracing this opportunity and am very thankful for it.
Thank you, thank you. And so let's get started. I mean, we want to give as much value to our audience, to our listeners, and hopefully we can inspire them with the message that we have. So let's jump into the questions. I have actually 8 questions for you. The first three
Okay.
questions would basically for us to be really able to understand from which perspective you're coming from. The 4 to 6 questions, since we're both a rock star, I would say the juicy part of the conversation as per King. And then the 7 to 8 question is your chance to answer like some of the very open and interesting questions I would call Miss Universe questions. So
Right.
let's start it. So please do share with us your leadership experiences. I know you've worked for different types of industries as well as or type of businesses, and I'm sure with leaders as well. So share with us your experience. If you do have like a favorite influencer you'd like to mention, because that's where most of our audience will be able to relate, or a leadership style that you have preference for.
Absolutely. So I will say my main influencer, as far as my pharmacy career of 37 years plus, I'm still licensed in 2 states and an immunizer, is my father. And
Wow.
he has passed on, but he was a huge influencer. He had a store. I grew up in the pharmacy. I went to pharmacy school where he went to pharmacy school, which was in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. And
Mhm.
I just really loved growing in his footsteps and learning from him. As I went on and I went to hospital and retail, I had
Mhm.
mentors there that were really wonderful for me. vice president of the hospital. Larry Labor was huge in helping me develop in the hospital. And so I had a lot of beautiful opportunities, both retail, corporate, and meeting Jack Eckert. I don't know if you're familiar with him there, but Jack Eckert was the owner and builder of Eckert Pharmacy in the US, huge corporation. So
Mhm.
that really, those are like my big influencers and growers. I have recently switched over to practicing in energy and doing alternative therapy. And the influencers there really are not personal influencers that I've met, but that I've read and study and love. And I'm not familiar. I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but Dr. Bruce Lipton,
Mhm.
Dr. Deepak Chopra.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah.
familiar with Deepak Chopra.
Yeah.
I just had my meditation with him.
Yes, love it. And then Dr. Norman Shealy, who is very popular, and the reason why I gravitate so to them in particularly is because they are medically minded or medically groomed and grown in the United States, and they have learned that there's another whole process available to people through alternative measures. And so I've really grown in that. um, my style of leadership, I'm definitely persistent, and I'm always loving to learn. I've done a lot of study with alternative iridology and the intuitive contact reflex analysis. Then I'm right now in the holistic business school for learning more techniques on psychotherapeutic areas of influence and helping people. So I'm a constant learner, and I refer to myself as the loving kind lioness because I
Wow.
want, yeah, I want to give myself a vision of being sensitive yet firm and bold, because what I'm doing is very bold, changing a big format. Yes.
Wow, that's really amazing. Thank you for sharing with us
Oh,
your
thank you.
experience in terms of leadership. And again, that, reminds us again, you've mentioned about your father as like the person you look up to. And obviously, as a parent, we have a huge role to
Mhm.
play when we have children, right? So we have to better
Mhm.
be a good role model to our children. And I really like that, you gave examples of really, some of the great doctors who are actually working on alternatives as well, like as you mentioned. I'm very familiar with Dr. Chopra because I'm using his meditations as well. And I love when you shared like your favorite style is really around, continuous learning, very persistent. and
Huge.
and again, that's, I would say, a requirement for a leader to be in. So you and
Absolutely.
I mean, in the introduction, we mentioned about staying relevant, and the only way to do that is to be a continuous learner and to be persistent in, working on getting to where your vision is, right?
Yes, it's really key. Learning, growing, stretching, becoming more so that you can be a leader for others. Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
And
Hmm.
so, having said that experience, your role model, and your favorite, style as well, what would you say leadership is? How would you define it?
Leadership is expanding. Leadership does not stagnate. True leadership cannot stagnate. And so I'll give you an example. When I was a year ago at this time, I was trained for the COVID clinics in
Mm-hmm.
Tampa Bay area for the 2021 COVID clinics for immunizing, because as a standby watching what was happening in our world,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, wow, this is really intense, and I wanted to be part of the solution. So
Mm-hmm.
as a leader, we really want to, whether we're leading a group or ourselves, we really want to look at solutions and not spend a lot of time with the problem. And I really had a yearning to get out, and it wasn't easy. I had a lot to learn, but I was really blessed because when I did go on to the clinics, they had me be a depot lead, and I was responsible for groups of pharmacists or nurses, and we would go in and perform these clinics, and it lasted a 7 month period. And in that time, I was learning to grow exponentially, organization, communication, and compassion for myself on the learning curve, and compassion for the others, whether we were immunizing, meaning the client, the patient, or the compassion for the groups of people, because you have different personalities, you have different
Exactly.
dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So leadership really demands that attitude of don't spend a lot of time on the problem. You look at it, you evaluate it, and then you get solutions. And that's where I'm at now too with my alternative. I have a Facebook group for wellness support for professional women, and in that, it's really looking at it with a direction of solutions to help women that are busy. We're all busy, right? And giving good tips and helpful advice and leading in that passion of really wanting to help others grow. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Thank
great.
you. And I really like how you simplified it to that true leadership is expanding and can't be stagnating. And that's where, in my introduction, I've mentioned about staying relevant. And also in your earlier share, you've mentioned about, being able to continuously learn as well, right, as a leader. But what actually also got into me is that how you actually explained what you meant by this, right, on the expansion part, where you really have to support your team because people
Mhm.
are different. You
Yeah,
have to also like learn the different personalities and how you have to deal with them, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
and and of course, the pandemic has, you've shared about your experience on during the pandemic, that you wanted to be part of the solution as well. And that's what we wanted to be, to do, especially for entrepreneurs like us, right? and
Right.
and and I've mentioned about next normal earlier during my introduction. And again, all these challenges during the pandemic has also like brought us into a lot of different things to face, or challenges to face, like what you've mentioned. This is huge. What happened when COVID actually hits is like,
Huge.
I wanted to do something to be part of the solutions in in being able to address this pandemic,
Mhm.
right? So that leads me to my next question. How would you define and describe the next normal? For sure, I mean, especially in where you are right now in the healthcare industry, right? It's like, wow, that's I would say like one of the most thriving industries nowadays, right?
Right. And the next normal, when I saw this question, I really loved it because it was like next normal. Like for me, I'm 60 years old. So I remember we didn't have a TV, and then having the first black and white TV, and then going into the telephone where, oh, we don't have to have it glued to the wall. We used to fight over it. Let me have the phone, because there was four of us girls, so we would fight over who got the phone. But and then in that progress of the computers, I was on the first at Eckerd Pharmacy. We were the first pharmacy to get computerized pharmacy prescriptions. And I
Mhm.
remember going Control Alt Delete, because it was DOS, and it would just like crash, and then you'd go, okay, let's keep going. And but man, I just was like embraced it, and I still just see that there's so much more in life, and that's that growth and expansion. So what is the next norm? Now certainly the past 2 years
Mhm.
have been nothing normal, and it's really caused a lot of confusion, a lot of disconnect. But in that, people have been forced to change. And if you close your growth, ability or monitor, if you're going to close that, you're
Mhm.
going to really suffer in this norm or the next norm, because it's forcing us to be aware of all the opportunities and growth that is exponentially occurring. And I look at it as, yes, has it been hard? Absolutely. Am I sad and grieved over lost lives? You betcha. It hits me hard. I'm very sensitive. On the other hand, this whole process that we've been going through has really pushed us into a norm that has forced us to be open minded and not have a fixed mindset. And that's where true abundance and growth can really flow. So I'm very thankful for living during this time. It's been, hard and scary, but it's exciting, and I am truly thankful for it.
Wow, that's really beautiful. And again, that's the silver lining that we got from this pandemic.
Yeah.
And humans or people are actually evolving because of the
Yes.
changes that happen. And again, all we can do is really to be grateful of this experience, and be able to again focus on the solutions and how we can change life for the better, right? Yeah.
Correct.
So thank you for sharing that insight with
Yeah.
us. And so, I mean, not only in this next normal, I mean, for sure there will be still a lot of changes in the future. But,
Mhm.
from your experience as a corporate leader before, or working in as a pharmacist in different companies before, or having your own business as well right now, what would you say would be this top three problems that most leaders do face?
As leaders, the biggest number one, in my opinion, is
Mm-hmm.
that we face is once we get disconnected from the mission,
Mm-hmm.
we can get in trouble quickly. And when we get so busy, that disconnect from our why, like why are we doing this, really gets uh, unstable and or out of our vision, and
Mm-hmm.
we end up making less communication skills. And when that happens, then we can make decisions that are not educated, that they are not in the best interest of everyone involved. So to me, disconnection from the mission, your why, is definitely one of the challenges that we all as leaders face. And keeping that really close to your heart and not
Mm-hmm.
letting that slip. And then that way you have, it's like your plumb line. If you keep that focused, then your plumb line is set. And you're going to
Mm-hmm.
wave, you're going to have issues. You're going to have things that come up, but that plumb line keeps you on that set, solid, focused drive. So, yeah, as corporate leaders, that's huge.
Wow,
Mhm.
thank you for summarizing that for us. And again, like it was also mentioned by and I guess made famous by Simon Sinek, right? Knowing your why, and this is where you were focusing on, I would say, based on your statement. And
Mhm.
like the disconnection from people and your why, it actually leads to a lot more challenges, like what you've mentioned around communications, which also affects your decision making in the end. So I appreciate that. I mean, this is really something that leaders has to be reminded of, right? In
Oh,
terms of, like,
yeah.
going back to your why is really the key. We all have a purpose in this world. And a role to play as well. So it's important to really find out that one so that we can actually thrive all the time. And obviously, we will not, leave them with this problem. And we will like
Yeah.
uh, suggest probably like a solution on this, like by sharing with us like the important leadership capabilities or skills that they must have in the next normal to continue to lead effectively. So if you can give a few important skills or leadership capabilities that you believe is important to have or to be able to continue to lead effectively, what would that be?
Number one, without a shadow of a doubt, would be digitalization,
Mm-hmm.
understanding the pros and the cons of it.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, I love this. This is amazing. Where you are, right, in Singapore, and I'm in Florida, USA, and we're
Mm-hmm.
able to talk. I mean, how amazing is this? And
True.
video it so we can share it later.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the beauty of our era. The problem is when communication is done quickly, abruptly, and there is no physical body reading of how is this being stated. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just words, whether it's DM, direct message, or text message, then email not so much. It doesn't get as not as clouded. It can, but it's not as clouded to me. But those,
Mm-hmm.
the other two, and people are using it more and more. More and more people are using text message or DM, which is
Mm-hmm.
great and convenient. But if there's that little bit of misunderstanding,
Mm-hmm.
then it can cause confusion and not a clear direction. So I love digitalization. It's not going to go away. And so
Mm-hmm.
embracing it, but being really key to understanding how to go ahead and utilize it in a very positive manner. So that is to me the main number one. And then again, of course, being open to the different avenues. And as it develops, it's not going to stop there. There's going to
Mm-hmm.
be a new tool probably in a year and
Mm-hmm.
embracing that rather than, oh man, I just had to learn that. No, just go for it, and the more you use it, the easier it gets. So digitalization, understanding, and being positive about growth in learning more about digitalization. That would be key.
Yeah, and what I'm getting from you again comes back to being a continuous, learner, right?
Mhm.
And being to embrace all those changes that are happening to us,
Yeah,
particularly on the part of digitalization, or like you've said, like to be being just open, to the different avenues or tools that they can learn to grow to understand, right? And
right.
that's the opportunity we have right now. I mean, like there's endless opportunities for us to learn and to pay attention to in this interesting times, I would say.
Right. Yes.
So what do you believe? I mean, you've mentioned we've been talking a lot about leadership, your take on it, your experience on it, and you even mentioned about continuous learning as part of like what they have to have, right? And so, like, I mean, what do you believe will be the role of learning, leadership, and transformation in order to thrive in this next normal?
So the leadership skills for the next normal is really that encompassing of transformation
Mm-hmm.
from the top down. They're going
Mm-hmm.
to want to really exemplify
Mm-hmm.
what steps will need to be taken so that that trickles down to others that are looking up to them, and that's across the board. That's in any facet of business. That connection of that, the leadership taking the first step. I think for me, that is the biggest
Mhm.
role of leadership, is just being bold and brave. And when the COVID in the clinics, when it started and I got up there and had done all the paperwork learning, and then got up there in to Tampa, where it was a pretty hot bed up there. It was a lot of cases, and just the leadership that was over me, they didn't know what was going fully on, yet just wearing it and saying, it's okay. This is what we're going to do. And then if we had to shift it, which we did, we'd have to shift X, Y, and Z, then we'd shift it. And that's hard sometimes to do. On that was like on a spur of a moment. So roles of leadership is, you don't really sometimes have time on your side to sit and go, well, let me see, let me look at all of these options. Sometimes leadership has to go for it and take a risk. And that's where intuitively you slow down and go, okay, whoa, this, where is this a good choice or not? And that will, I do think too, good leaders are intuitives, and they
Mhm.
can feel, okay, whoa, no, that's not a good choice, or wow, let's do it. And they have to decision make quickly and
Yes.
deal with, okay, the consequences. But being able to just embrace that takes a special person. It really
Mhm.
does. And that's why from the inside out is really key. I love learning and teaching and growing, understanding your inside intuition growth makes good leaders.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. And I really love how you share that, you have to start from the inside. And that's, I would say, um, we can call it probably self leadership, or
Mhm.
like really working on your inner self.
Yep.
Yeah, because I'm also in that journey of I've mentioned in some interviews as well, because for I would say for a good reason that a lot of the interviews that I have recently are actually into health and wellness uh, industry. So it's really good to know. And part of that again is like working on your intuition or inner self. You've
Mhm.
mentioned as well, Dr. Chopra earlier, like around meditation. And again, that if we just listen to our intuition as a leader, because more often than not, like i- they think it on a logical way. Is it right to do that, or to use our intuition, or to go by our gut feeling and all those stuff? And yet, here you are having like your career for the last 37 years, and still like recommending, like really looking from the inside, right? and
Mhm.
and I mean, that's actually not something a lot of people would talk about, and yet
Mhm.
it's really important, right?
Nope. But
Yeah. So thank you for reminding us on that. And again, I would always say how leadership is important in any organizations, because they have a huge role in terms of that transformation, as you've mentioned in your earlier statement. They have a huge role in their state in the changes or transformation happening in the organization, right? And like what you said as well, exemplifying from top to down, and that's always the case. And that's the reason
Mhm.
why I've been hearing as well, like when I ask some of my clients or potential clients, and they would always tell me that how important the leadership mindset is, because they really are the ones who would you know um create that vision, communicate that vision, and help all the people within the organization to actually get there.
Right.
All the directions are coming from there, right? So very,
Yes.
very important.
Mm, very important. Very
Yes. So
important. Yes.
again, I'm flashing the summary of what you've said on the role of leadership and transformation, just to, remind again our viewers on this. And that leads me to my next question. I mean, this is very open question, so I'm really excited to know what will you say or what answers will you give me. These are really open questions, and so I'm curious to know, if you have a magic wand and can use it, what will you do with it?
Okay. If I had a magic wand,
Mm-hmm.
I would give everyone self-confidence. But I want to make it clear there are two types of self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
There's one that is grown and produced that is from outside sources, such as, oh, I want to have and build that house, or I want to have that job, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'm going to do this and compete and be, not that that's not that wanting that and competing is not, I'm not against any of that. I'm very competitive. What I'm getting at is that is more fueled the self from the outside influences. What I would like to do with that magic wand is give a self confidence that's built from the inside out. And that's very, very different, because when it's built from the inside out, it's a true, loving, passionate being of, first of themselves, that, wow, I'm confident because I am worthy. And then they can, once that is inner reflected, that can be shared exponentially to others and build their confidence. And I think that's really a beautiful way, because when you're self-confident and, like, I'm all about being, the power pose, right? I love all that. I think it's cool. Like, I have fun with that. I've got this. And I'm not saying that that's not good. But what I'm saying is, when you have an inner self-confidence, you can be vulnerable and you're going to be okay. And you can be a strong leader and make mistakes, and it's okay, because you're not a fixed mindset. You're a growth mindset. And so you can pick up the pieces or piece and keep going, rather than shut down and hold what could expand incredibly. So that would definitely be the wand that I would magically give, is inner self-confidence. Yes.
Wow. I really wish you have a magic wand so that you can do that. If I can lend you my unicorn magic wand here. But again, at least that's already something that you're doing with what you do right now with alternative medicine and in
Yes.
the care, where you are focused in your leadership style that you do as well. And again, I couldn't stress more enough, like what you've said, how important it is to work from inside out, like you've mentioned, that confidence and you know just being.
Being correct.
Being is already a gift, not only to yourself but to the
Mhm.
people around you. And and it's amazing, like no matter how many people are there in this world, we're all unique, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Beautifully unique. Yes.
Yeah, and it's amazing that when we actually work on our strength, and when we don't become we don't really like listen to the negative voices and negative environment around us, like imagine how much we can be. And
Yes.
like what you've said, with not really getting affected with the negativities, not being a victim of probably of the negativity around us as well, not shutting down like what you've said, but
Yeah.
still like I know who I am. I know my purpose. I know what I have to do. Having that confidence, as you said, like that inner confidence. As you said, is really like an amazing gift, not only for yourself but for everyone around you, right?
Correct.
Like, yeah, I really wish you have
Yeah,
the magic wand. And so that leads me to my last question for today. If you were to ask yourself a question that you can best answer, what would it be? And if you can share with us more on why, or like how did you actually come up with this question or your answer, or give us the answer to your question, feel free to
yeah,
do so.
absolutely. Yes. So the question that I would ask myself would be, Barbara, what would you feel if at the end of your life, right now, would you have any regrets? And what's interesting about this question is that there has been studies done in nursing homes
Mm-hmm.
where they've gone in and asked, do you regret your life? Do you regret what you have done or not done? And it's an outstanding amount of people saying, yes, I regret that I didn't do this, or I regret that I didn't do that. And it's they're at the end of their life. So that's heart-wrenching for me to have read that and
True,
learned that that's a reality for many, many people.
true.
And when I thought about that question, I honestly can say that I do not have one regret. I've had some bumps, I've had some bruises, we all have. I miss my dad, and family members that have passed on, transitioned, I say. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like every single thing that has happened has led me step by step to the process of being the leader and the woman that I am right now. And so it's such a beautiful journey. How can I regret any of that? Anything that it all was for the purpose for me to grow and be strong and keep going and keep becoming what I am created to be. And that's not easy for me to say because that transition from going to, top of my game in the medical field as far as pharmacy and then deciding, I mean, I literally decided, I really do like I loved pharmacy, but I love alternative. I do I have meditations on my YouTube channel that I'm developing, and they work. They help people decompress, simple tools, the creative eight, slowing down the body, breathing techniques, certain supplementation to help your body be strong and in a set frequency, making sure the blood energy is strong. All of these add up to no regrets. And so my goal, my burden is to really help people see that there's options out there that they can live a happy, healthy, wealthy life. And like I said with my Facebook, that I'm developing it. It's in process. And sure, as a leader, have I been nervous? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you push through that and you know that that's what you're here to do, is to help others grow and become strong and have wellness support. So, yeah, I did want to share with you a book that I highly recommend by
Mindset.
Carol Well. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah, growth mindset.
this is a really good book. It's dated, but it's a really, really solid book. And I wanted to just share that because if you're just starting out, or even if you're kind of like, what is inside, living from the inside, or energy technique, because some of it's a little daunting. That's a great book, whether it's about mindset, and you can utilize this for business, for school, for parenting, and for energy techniques and relationships. I mean, it is a very well done book that speaks universally to everyone. So I just wanted to share that to let people know that that is available. Beautiful book. Yes.
Wow, really beautiful question that you've shared with us. I mean, like, a lot of us, we do things or we don't do things. And in the end, we regret it. And like as they say, right? Like in your story, like most of the things that people would regret are the things that they didn't do.
Exactly. Yeah, and so I just, yeah, I just was like, I've got, like, I love doing the alternative and I love doing pharmacy, but it's like I really needed to take to do energy. I really needed to dive in. And so I do encourage people to take that risk, be a leader from the inside out, let it speak to you, and you go for it. You go for it. And if you have to take baby steps, it's okay. It's okay. Just move forward because
Exactly. And earlier, I mean, you just shared how old you are now, and but your the way your mindset is, the way you actually like answered all the question is as if you are a teenager. I would say, like, very hopeful, very vibrant, and a lot of positivity as well along our conversation, as if like, I'm I can do a lot of things, and even if you've been a pharmacist for 37 years, and yet you are following your passion in terms of, I like to do this, I like alternative medicine, and I'm gonna do it anyway.
yeah, I'm
Right.
going for it. Yes, exactly. And
And
so, yeah, you're never too old, you're never too um poor, you're never too, you just look at it and say, I can do this. And I have the power within to make this happen. And it's not always clear. I actually studied with Bob Proctor. He passed away, and
Mhm.
I've been sad about that because he's such a great world mentor to
Exactly.
so many people, and it's like, wow. And I have my book, Thinking into Results, and I just, the the amount of great information in there is just astronomical. And so that helped to push me to go forward in this journey. That was one tool. Now I've had a lot of other tools, but that was one of the self-help that has gotten me to where I am today. And I will continue to grow. There's a lot out there, and
True.
I'm super thankful that it is available because, yeah, I feel like I'm 18, like doing my passion at 18.
Exactly, exactly. And we can all do that. I mean, no matter like what your age is or where you are in your life or current life is, right? And it's amazing that, we all have this gift to pursue whatever we do well,
Yeah,
right? And also to, like, if you feel that you wanted to do something, just go for it. And a lot of the things like what you've mentioned, things or situations or um like happens to us for a purpose, right? It's there to either us for us to learn from or
to grow.
to
Yes.
grow and all those stuff. So it's really about the mindset, as you've shared the the book of Carol Dwell,
Yeah.
like as well. Sorry. And then um so thank you so much for this amazing conversation. It's really beautiful, positive, and very hopeful, I would say. And for sharing that to our audience as well. Like, I really love this conversation. So before we end, is there anything more that you'd like to add, or a message that you'd like to leave our audience with?
I would just like to share that true leadership comes from the soul, comes from way deep down. And whether you're leading yourself, your family, your community, a business, or a politician, the world, that when you have that from deep down inside, you will not go astray with your direction.
Mhm.
So that's the message, that from the inside out.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Thank you so much for this amazing, beautiful conversation. Very intuitive as well, I would say. And thank you everyone for watching with us. I think most of our audience are coming from YouTube. And for those who haven't, who would have who would like to learn from Barbara today, feel free to watch us on a replay. And again, join us in this journey to create an opportunity of creating the world we really wanted to live in, which is full of opportunity, full of abundance, like what you've said as well.
Yes.
And something that we believe in by doing so from in and out, right? And remember that even the richest investors in this world would always say that investing in yourself is the best investment you can ever make in your life. So with that, we would like to leave you all with this quote from Dolly Parton, that if your actions create legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Barbara. Thank you so much for all our audience, and looking forward to see you all again. And if you have any questions, or you have like anything that you'd like to ask for from Barbara or me, and you will need our help for any of your training, coaching, or consulting, feel free to connect with us. I've flashed my email address as well. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
and have a good day, everyone.
God bless.
Bye for now. God bless everyone.